morning. We're here today with Judge Lillian Harris Ransom. Did I get that all right? Yes,
Got
good
it
morning.
all in there.
One of the most gentle women that I've known in the court system over many, many years.
That's very kind of you.
Thank
we
you
have
for
known
coming.
each other for a while.
Yes, we have. I was happy to see your name on the list.
Yes.
If we start at the beginning,
Yes.
where should we start? You tell us about where you were born. And
All right. I
If
can
you
do
want.
that. I was born and actually grew up in a small town, actually on a farm outside of a small town
Yeah.
in the segregated South.
Huh?
And I went to the public schools in the area where I grew up.
Yeah.
My mother was the principal of the high school,
Uh-huh.
and the school is historic in the sense that my father was one of the people who founded that school. There was a time in the area where I grew up where public school was not provided to people of color who were beyond 7th grade.
Ah, okay.
So my father was fortunate enough to be able to earn his college degree, and he came back and he said, we need a high school in the community.
Sure.
And that was how it got started. And then, maybe about 15 years later, I think my mother moved to the area.
Yeah.
And they got married, and she ultimately became the principal of the school. So and it was the school for all of the children of color at my end of the county where I grew up.
Okay.
So the area was a very
Rural.
rural area.
Yeah.
And I think that experience probably was one of the things that made me kind of conscious of the law, because even though we are all familiar with Brown versus Board of Education, which was a 1954 Supreme Court case that said schools should be integrated, the schools in my area were not integrated until 1970. So
Wow.
right, okay, so there's a little pause there.
Yes.
Okay, that all deliberate haste did not,
Yes.
really apply too much to where I grew up. But anyway, when I finished there, I went to undergraduate school at Hampton,
Mm-hmm.
which is in the Tidewater section of Virginia. It's a private HBCU, a historically black college or university. And most of the people in my family were educators, so that was what I knew. So I thought I was going to be a teacher.
Sure.
So I completed my studies there, and then I came to Philadelphia
Yeah.
and earned a master's degree in early childhood education at Temple.
Still going toward teacher.
Still going toward teacher. So
Yeah.
I said, well, I'll teach in the classroom with little children for a while, and then, which is what I did.
Yeah.
But long term, I had thought that I would probably wind up in college administration as a college professor, and
I
then
see.
maybe as an administrator at
Yeah.
the college level.
Similar to mom and dad.
Similar to mom and dad.
Yeah.
I didn't know any lawyers. I didn't know any judges. I'd never been to court. I knew nothing, okay? But what happened, one of my friends, we all finished college together.
Yeah.
One of my friends was accepted to law school and invited me to come and spend a few days on the law school
Yeah.
campus. And I sat in on classes, and I looked and I listened, and it was kind of like one of those epiphany moments.
Yeah.
I said, "Ooh, I think I can do this."
Yeah.
You pick a point and you argue your point. You're prepared, and you go and you
Right.
advocate for whatever side you're on.
Yeah.
So that was what began the glimmer of my law career.
Yeah.
It then took me about 5 or 6 years to apply to law school,
Mm-hmm.
because when I told my parents, I said,
That's nice.
I want to be a lawyer. And they looked at each other like, where did we go wrong?
They're looking at
What have
their
we done?
legacy, right,
It's
yeah.
so like I said, I didn't know any lawyers, and
Yeah.
never met any anyway. But as I continued to work, and before I went to law school, I did have an opportunity to teach teachers, people who wanted to teach young children, so I had an opportunity to do that. And then I got involved in directing citywide child care programs. So my job was to support, encourage, coordinate the implementation of programs for children who were 5 and under. Because at that time, the whole idea of kindergarten and preschool programs
Yeah.
was something that was fairly new.
I
So
see.
we were pretty much on the cutting edge of getting those kinds of things done.
Yeah, the very valuable things they are.
Absolutely. So then I said, you know, you always wanted to go to law school. So I applied, and I was accepted.
Apparently.
And then I called them and I said, listen, I got this letter saying that I had been accepted to your program. Did you mean to send this?
Are you sure you meant to send it to me?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
So they said, yes, come on down. So I got the hang of it. So I completed law school in 2.5 years. And so I went summers
Excellent.
and, you know, year round and
Yeah.
wrote lots of papers and things.
Mm.
Then what did happen? I never worked for an agency. I never worked like for the public defender or for the
Okay.
for the
DA.
DA's office or for the city. I was always in private practice, which meant that I was in court almost every day. I represented lots and lots of people as an attorney, and I saw the fine quality of the judges because my practice primarily was in the 1st Judicial District.
Yeah.
And I saw the judges here, and I said, one of those epiphany moments.
I could do that.
I think I could do that. So, in 1995, I sought the election, sought the office of Judge of the Court of Common Pleas, and I was successful with that. And I served on the court here for the 1st Judicial District until 2016.
Okay.
Now, in 2016, I read that Governor Wolf was accepting applications or accepting statements of interest for people who might want to be appointed to the appellate court level.
Yeah. Well, see, this is the part I don't know about this.
Okay.
I left before
So
that.
you did, you did, okay. So there was a very arduous process, vetting the numerous candidates who had indicated an interest
Yeah.
in serving at the statewide level on one of the appellate courts. And eventually, the governor nominated me, and I was confirmed by the Senate. And since 2016, I've been serving as a judge of the Superior Court of Pennsylvania.
And I didn't
You
even
didn't know
realize
that, okay.
I asked you for the
Well,
interview.
it's been a bit since we have talked about that.
I know, you're accomplishing so much.
Yeah, well,
And you have in
I
such a
have.
short time.
It has been, this is maybe 23, 24 years on the bench.
Yeah.
Most with the 1st Judicial District.
Right.
And while at the 1st Judicial District, I started out in family court,
Okay.
and there.
Which is where I started out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So at that time, we were at 1801.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
1801 Vine Street. And that was a really, really good learning experience for me. I mean, there were so many families who needed help and needed
Yeah.
patience and guidance, and anyway, so there I was able to lead the implementation of a new program that allowed the children on the dependency court, the families in the dependency court, to be looked at in a different way.
Yes.
And that was called our model court program, which became a national model, and that worked very well.
Well, in my opinion, I think that dependency court is one of the most important
Yeah.
courts that exist, because everything starts there.
It does.
Or, if things really work out well, things can also end there.
That's true, and you never see the people again, because
Yes.
you know that whatever has been offered to them by the way of support services has been successful.
Yes.
So that worked well. Then I moved to the criminal division, to the trial division, criminal.
Right, okay. Okay.
And so I did what you could do here. I did felony waivers, and I did jury trials, and then ultimately we started a new program here that was called Discovery Court.
Yeah.
So for a whole year, my job was to make sure that all of the discovery was passed in the
Prepared,
criminal
yeah.
cases.
Okay.
And then I was assigned to the homicide unit, so I had presided over homicide cases for 5 or 6 years.
I thought you were there for a pretty long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was asked if I would be the chair of the homicide group,
Uh-huh.
which I agreed to do, and that was nice.
Yeah.
And then the very last project that I worked on for this court was to coordinate with a number of other people within the court system the implementation of the juvenile lifers program. So
Okay.
when the law changed so that people who had been convicted of murder, but at the time of the murder they were under 18,
Yes.
so the law changed saying that they should not be sentenced to life without parole.
Right.
Okay?
And should not have been. Isn't
Correct.
it retroactive?
Retroactively.
Okay.
So in Philadelphia, there were 300 of those people.
Oh, yeah.
And we had to figure out a way to get them back into court,
Yeah.
to explain to them, you're guilty. All right,
Right.
that's not the issue that we're dealing with.
Right.
And what we're dealing with is what should be an appropriate sentence for you. So that was the very last project that I did before I left to go down to the Superior Court.
Yeah. I feel like I should salute you or something. on
No,
Superior
no,
Court.
not at all. I mean, we do, it is a tremendous volume of casework there,
Mhm.
and we have to travel sometimes.
Oh.
So the Superior Court meets, the 3 main places that we meet are Philadelphia, Harrisburg, and Pittsburgh. Okay. So when I'm assigned to a panel, and we work in groups of 3, whereas at the trial court, at the First Judicial District, each judge has their own courtroom,
Courtroom,
and that's
right.
it. Okay?
Yeah.
But there you work at least in groups of 3.
Hmm.
And the cases are submitted. There are 8,000 or so appeals that are filed every year.
Yeah.
Because
It's a
just
big
about,
number, yeah.
it's a big number.
Yeah.
Just about everybody who has a trial is entitled to an appeal,
Right.
just of right.
Okay.
And so that means those people who do decide to appeal come to us. So I've gotten to travel a bit. I've learned, that some of the issues that are very important here don't actually apply in other parts of the
Anywhere
state.
else, yeah.
Right, and I've had to make rulings on fracking cases. Okay,
Oh, right.
it never comes up in Philadelphia
No.
because that's not what we do here. But there are other parts of the state where it is really, really important. So
Sure.
we get civil and criminal appeals.
Uh-huh.
And so my current position is as a senior judge for the Superior Court.
Okay.
So I told you earlier that the governor had nominated me and I was confirmed by the Senate.
Yeah.
That appointment expired at the end of December of 2017.
Uh-huh.
And then the Supreme Court, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, asked if I would be willing to serve for a period of time
Yes.
as a senior judge for the Superior Court. So that is what I'm doing now.
Well, congratulations. I
Thank
think
you.
it's all great.
Thank you.
I only wish I had kept up a little better since I
that's all
left. But what do you think that the practice of law, and it must change from when you started out to now? How has it changed?
How has it changed? Well, I think one of the big issues that we are working with now in all of the courts at the appellate level as well as at the trial court level is how do you handle the social media kinds of things.
Oh, right.
So there are things like cell phones that when I first started, people didn't have cell phones. It was
Yes,
a
that's right.
phone booth. You remember the phone booths in
Yeah,
City Hall?
right.
And, okay, all right. So now everybody has a cell phone, and the technology says that you can do the triangulation and you can figure out where the phone
That's right.
was at, well, that's something that's new. We're
Yeah.
learning how to do that. Overlay the law to the technology.
Yes.
There are the various social media sites, and we are learning that just because something is posted on social media and it's under my name, it doesn't mean that I did it necessarily.
Right. No.
It just means that the fact is, yes, it was posted on my website, but it doesn't mean that I posted it on my website.
Right.
So those kinds of things are
Right.
different.
Brand new. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think there probably are a few, there are more women, I would say, practicing on the civil side than there were when I was in practice, and maybe just a very few more women on the criminal side.
Uh-huh, okay.
It has not increased a whole lot, but a few more women on the criminal side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was there anybody that you looked up to in your life? I mean, aside from your mom and dad,
Yeah.
who I understand provided an excellent model.
They did.
Look at the product. So, I mean, was there any particular person in law or maybe, I don't know, even in law school or, yeah, to whom you looked up?
Well, I think you are absolutely right to understand that my parents were my guiding force.
Well, that can be
Okay, all right.
fine,
So
too.
that
I don't mean
was,
to direct you away from that.
No, but they certainly were, and I do not want to omit the opportunity to talk about that.
Yes.
But in the legal community in Philadelphia, I would say in particular Justice Juanita Cade Stout,
Yeah.
was sort of at the end of her career when I was coming along.
Yeah.
But, she was revered. I mean, it was like, oh my gosh, okay. And then,
I like her a lot.
yeah. And then there were a number of trial attorneys who sometimes, what the younger attorneys would do, if you had a few minutes and you knew somebody was on trial, you would go and just sit in the room and just sit as a part of the audience to
Okay.
learn the skills of interviewing and how you handle a case well in court. That was a good thing to be able to do.
Well, Justice Stout said to me one time, when we were eating lunch, we had both trained somebody in a class, and she said to me, "Len, my first name is not Justice." Okay, why not?
No, well, you do kind of lose your name. Because even when I was coming in for the interview today, I saw several people who I knew, and I knew they recognized me. Now, most of them, I would say, maybe don't know my name, but they knew Judge. Good morning, Judge. How are you? Good morning, Judge.
Yeah.
So you sort of lose your first name in the process, but for most of us, it is doing what we do as we make decisions that impact people's lives is something that we stay very low key about. Most of us do not seek the spotlight at all. We may
Right.
wind up in the spotlight on occasion, but that's not exactly what we're looking out for.
Yeah.
We promise at the trial level. We promise people that you come, you'll have an opportunity to be heard, and you'll get a fair hearing.
Yeah.
At the appellate court level, basically the Superior Court is what we call an error-correcting court.
Yes.
So it is one where if a person comes and they file an appeal, we say, tell us what the trial court did that was wrong. Okay. And we have standards that we measure what the trial court judge did
Yes.
against the standard. And if the Superior Court makes the decision to affirm, that means that whatever issues you raised, we looked at them, we evaluated them, they don't have any merit.
Okay.
Because we are going to affirm what the trial court did. They did not make an error.
Yeah.
Sometimes we will say the trial court just got it wrong and we have to reverse. And then other times we'll say, you need to, what you call remand. You need to go back and do something again. For
Yeah.
instance, we had a number of cases where the law changed mid-case. So what the judge did at the time the case was in front of them was absolutely correct.
But now.
But now the law has changed, so we
Okay.
send it back and say,
Yeah.
to the trial court judge, wherever they might be around the state. Because of the change in the law, we're sending it back for you to do.
For reconsideration, or, yeah.
Yeah.
What, do you think, well, what do you consider to be your major achievement as a judge, or even as a lawyer?
Oh.
Aside from, well, I don't know, go ahead. I was going to say, aside from becoming a superior court judge and leader.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you, I am most pleased about the opportunity that I have had to shape the direction of, for instance, my law clerks. So when I was at the trial court level, I had I changed law clerks about every 2 years.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah, I've met a few of them.
you've met
yeah.
a few of them?
Yeah.
And I mean, I am just so proud of them. They have just gone forward. I mean, so I don't know how much credit I can take, but I'll take whatever credit I can
Yeah,
take,
okay.
okay? You better haven't been here, okay?
Go for it, right?
But,
That's why we're
but
here.
I'll just grab it, okay?
Yeah.
But I am just very, very pleased with the law clerks who have come in front of me and worked with me. The other thing that I did when I was with the first judicial district was for many years I coordinated what was called the summer intern program. So we would have as many as maybe 160 or so students from law schools, primarily from law schools, but around the country.
Mm.
And they would come and they would spend the summer with our judges, and they would get a chance to do interesting things, like they'd go out and visit the prison, or they'd go down to the Marine unit, or they'd go to the they would go to the forensic center where they do the autopsies and that sort of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And we'd have people from the crime scene unit to come in to give them lectures.
Uh-huh.
The idea was to help students get a full understanding that when you have a law degree, it's not just what you read in the cases.
Yes.
There is an awful lot that goes into making you a good lawyer.
Mhm.
And, I had one or two who came back and said, "This is the best thing that ever happened. I'm
Yeah.
not doing this," okay? And then I've had others who come and say, "This has really been a fabulous experience. I am charged up and ready
Yeah.
to go forward." So
Oh, great.
we did that, I don't know, 15 to 16 years worth of that.
That
So
is quite a legacy.
a lot of students so
Yeah.
that we've had an opportunity to have some input.
I think
in
I
their
even got a
lives.
couple sandwiches out of those.
You probably
groups.
did. You probably
And
did.
took some pictures and things.
You did.
Yeah.
You did, absolutely. You
Okay.
helped document what we were doing at the time. So that was an excellent experience, and those people who had a chance to participate, if it makes them better lawyers, then I feel really good about
I
that.
agree. It certainly cannot hurt.
Yeah.
What would you, just out of the blue, what would be your advice to new judges starting out? If you have,
To new judges.
yeah.
Well, I think falls into two categories. On the one side, I would say nobody is going to if a case is assigned to you, you have your list for the day, nobody's going to handle those cases but you.
Yeah.
So you need to take your time. Just relax. It's not like somebody's going to take it off of your list,
Yeah,
okay?
right.
This is your case. These are your cases. Take your time, okay? The other thing is to remember that you have colleagues. Remember that you on every day may be presented with a question that you don't really know. You're the judge,
Yeah.
but you don't really know how to handle this.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone and talk to one or more of your colleagues.
Mm.
And they will support you, because the goal is to try to get the right answer and to try to make you the best judge that you can possibly be.
Exactly.
I think those two things. I mean, just don't. And I think the third, and I listed third, but I think most importantly is to remember that the people who come in front of you are not there because they want to be. But very few people choose to come to court. Okay? I mean,
Right.
you know, but when they're there, treat them kindly. Treat them like you would like to be treated.
Yes.
And explain to people what the rules are. I mean, sometimes I would have cases and people would get, you know, they were very emotional about whatever the issue was, and would lean toward being disruptive. And so I would say, now listen, I'm going to talk to you in plain English.
Yeah.
I have a job to do. My job is to listen to everybody, okay? If you all are making a lot of noise and causing confusion, I can't do my job, okay? I said, you're welcome to stay. It's an open court. I said, but I do have a rule, and that is if you can't follow my rules, you can't stay.
Well, that's pretty simple.
Right. And most people, you know, they just want to be treated like people, and they
Yeah.
want to feel like they're going to be treated fairly, and they want to feel like they're going to be heard. And that I think is essential to being a good judge. You know, it's not, you may not always get it right, but it is important that you treat people kindly who are in front of you.
And I could see that as being one of your basic rules. I could just see that. Because I think you adopt that
I do.
philosophy for life.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
And as I said before, I'm happy that I know you and that
Yeah.
we've known each other well. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us? I mean, it seems like an awful lot of things that you've been doing.
Well, there's, you know, there are, when there is a willing worker, there's always something
Something
to
to
be
do,
done.
yeah.
So people kind of know. In fact, my staff will tell me, usually when I go to a meeting, they say, now remember, Judge, do not volunteer for anything else, okay? So.
You know what?
But, you
I
know,
volunteered to do these things.
I know, and I'm so glad you
So
did.
to
So
see
let
that.
me just
Go
close
ahead,
out my part by
please.
saying what a wonderful opportunity this is.
Yeah,
What a wonderful
so.
program it is,
Okay.
because there is so, I mean, like I said, most of us are pretty low-key people. Most of us who do this kind of work, and we don't, it is very hard work. Most of us are very dedicated to doing the best job that we possibly can.
Yes.
And for this project to record what people have done, and to give them an opportunity to talk with someone like you, and to, you know,
Thank you.
to get an opportunity just to share a little bit about what they've done, because normally you wouldn't have any way of knowing.
No,
you know,
and
really.
people who don't want to come to court can get online and hear you and what you say.
Wonderful.
You know?
Wonderful.
I'm really
I
happy
think that's
about
very,
that.
very nice. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I appreciate that.
Judge, thank you so much for coming. It's really good to see you
Good
again.
to see you.